All right, so I think this is class 7. We're just having the pre-class discussion about what I was saying is back in 2007 and 2009, I was teaching. I told my class back then, I believed that it is possible, of course it is possible, that we may live in a post-democratic society where America is no longer functioning under the same form of government that we were at that time and somewhat are operating under now. And that'd be replaced with something else because there are forces afoot, and there have been for a long time, to try to subvert, to get rid of the form of government that we have now and replace it with something different. All right? And we can see that in the different philosophical movements going on. 1 at the universities, 2 in the political arena, 3 in the political rhetoric of many of the people in politics today. And so the questions I want to start asking you, and they're usually provocative questions. I try to get your goat somehow, okay? I don't mean to upset you, but I want you to go, oh, this is important. Do you understand the importance of this? Politics right now is angering people, and I sense there's a good reason for that. Okay? The political rhetoric is so hot right now that disagreements, like I said, are reduced to statements about one's racial preferences. Like I said, if you're a Trump supporter, you are a racist. Now, I'm not saying that as true. I'm saying that as that is what people are saying. Today is President Trump's second impeachment. Second impeachment. Now, why is he being impeached? First of all, he's not in office anymore, but we'll discuss the constitutionality of that later. Why is he being impeached? Because he allegedly started a riot. Did he really start a riot? Well, we'll have to look at the evidence. Did he say we're going to march peacefully and make our voices heard, right? And then we're going to tear down the Capitol? We don't know. Well, actually, we do know if we watch the video, okay? We can see who watched the video of Donald Trump giving his speech. Who's seen snippets of him giving that speech? What snippet did you see?
I think at the part where he said like he loved them. He was like, I love my supporters. That's the only part that I saw.
Oh, what news station are you watching?
I think it was like I don't remember correct. I'm not sure like completely, but it was like the last part.
I mean, were you watching the news and they went, and Donald Trump said, I love you.
Like he said it. Like he said it. Like he was giving the speech and then.
But were you watching the news or were you watching the actual?
I was watching the actual speech.
Okay, so you just caught part of the speech.
Yeah.
I'm asking, how did the news cover it? What did the news say about the speech? Anybody see any news about the speech? You are aware that our former president is being impeached. I put that in air quotes because impeaching is of a president, but he's no longer the president.
Well, if I remember, the news said that he was promoting violence towards.
Was he?
Like.
Now, of course, that's what they're telling you, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Democrats are telling you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is it true? In philosophy, make propositions. It's propositions, statements that are true or false. He either did or he didn't, okay? There was about 500,000 people there. I don't think anybody's going to stop 500,000 people if they really wanted. They would have torn that place down, don't you? They wanted to. And they could have. All right. That's not the point. The point is, it's a very heated time right now, and people are taking sides. A lot of people hate, God, Donald Trump, right? They hate him, right? And so a lot of people love him, right? And hate and they just, hate the other sides going on, right? Would you agree with that? Okay, good. Why are we fighting? What is the big fight about?
You mean like the riot?
Was it a riot?
Oh, I think it was.
You were there breaking windows and stuff?
No, I was not there.
You think it was a riot? What caused it?
I don't know what caused it, but I know.
So you wouldn't
that
convict?
They were mad they were saying that
Who's they?
pretty much anyone, like
Anyone? No,
even
that's
they're
too
like-
vague. Come on. You gotta be a little more specific. Did you hear any interviews?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what they're saying.
Trump supporters were
Yeah.
saying that.
Are you
like,
sure they were Trump supporters?
Well, some of them, most of them were Trump supporters. They were saying that like they stole the election from
Yeah,
them.
that,
Is that okay? That's either
They
true or
were
false.
right.
Or are they?
Which-
That's it. They're either correct or incorrect, right?
Yeah.
You'll agree with me. They're either correct or incorrect
Mhm.
that the election was rigged, right?
Well,
And-
yeah.
Yeah, rigged.
Well, that's what they're
So,
saying.
yes,
Yeah.
they being okay, and it's either true or false. Either correct or incorrect.
Mhm.
But they'd be really upset about that, wouldn't they? Let's put the shoe on the other foot. In fact, the shoe was on the other foot. They believe that Russia stole the election last time, correct? The Democrats did.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, good. All right, it's either correct or incorrect. Would you agree?
Mhm.
Keep going. So that was one sentiment. Okay.
Oh yeah, she finished. I was saying they were mad about like the election being stolen. They were, what was the Stop the Steal? I think. that's
Stop
what
the
they were
Steal,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what
Would you be mad if if your vote, you believed you got the majority of the votes and then the election was stolen?
I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't go
Why not?
riot at the Capitol.
Did they riot?
Mm,
You believe they rioted?
Yeah.
Okay. What if they didn't riot? There's a lot of claims out there that some of these people were not actually Trump supporters, that they were actually infiltrated by groups such as Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and other groups that are like, for example, the guy with the horns and the body paint. You see him? He turned out to be some weird guy he called him he's the QAnon shaman or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, but it turns out he was like not a Trump supporter. He was at a bunch of Black Lives Matter
But
protests.
he was against the protesters at Black Lives Matter.
Was he?
Yeah, news came out about that.
Did he? Okay, I want to know this because, some of the truth lies in between. But there was like guys in there, Antifa and stuff, and they started putting out names, and you go, well, like during the 2016 election cycle when Trump was having these rallies, they were finding out they were having these paid agitators come in, and they were starting fights in the Trump rallies with people to make them seem all violent, right? It turned out these guys are paid agitators connected to certain groups. So you see, politics is getting dirty. That's what I'm saying. The vast majority of people in America are pretty mellow. Would you agree? You even said you'd be angry, but you wouldn't protest.
Yeah.
No, you might protest, but you wouldn't riot.
Yeah.
Would you riot? No. Would you riot? Somewhere down the line, but somewhere down the line, America rioted, right? That's how we started.
Yeah.
You've heard of the Boston Tea Party? That was a riot. Okay. Then shots were fired, correct? And America started that way, a big fight. Did America ever have another riot over any good issue? Civil War, perhaps? Right? That was a pretty big one. Would you have joined in on that one?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No.
There's a lot of death in that one, right? There's a lot of Americans dying. Okay. Civil rights movement. Okay. A lot of people got the fire hose on that one. Was that worth fighting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're all, yeah. Well, that was only 50 years ago, right? Would you have participated in the Civil War? Or you
No,
wouldn't?
well, not Civil War.
Oh, yeah, you just keep them slaves, but
Well, yes and no.
yes and no. Yeah, how would you? Yeah, you're like, yeah, okay. Well, you're in Texas, so you wonder, if I was in Texas and we were on the wrong side, right?
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, okay. Are you glad we lost?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too. Okay, because I don't think I'd be a proud Texan if we won. Okay, that one. Okay, Texas independence, good. Civil War, you don't want to win that one. Okay, yeah, unless you're the North. Okay, very cool. All right. Why do I bring all this up? Because we're all heated about what? What are we heated about? And it's not about Trump, because Trump's gone. I could tell you that Trump is gone. People did not hate the Republicans because of Trump. People hated Trump because he was a Republican. If Trump were a Democrat, they would have forgiven him everything. Everything. Okay, if he was only pro-choice. Okay, if he was only on Hillary Clinton's side of the aisle, they wouldn't have cared. He could say whatever he wants. And we know this because Democrats say some really raunchy stuff. Would you agree? I could find it and I could show it to you. They say some very vile things and you get rid of it, get away with it. But if it's not the person that they hate, and they don't just hate a collection of people, they hate those people for a reason. And don't get me wrong, the Republicans don't like Democrats either. Why?
Because people just want to hear what they want to hear. So therefore, like, if he, like, it's like if Democrats, like, they say, like, for example, like California, like, they're all for this thing, so they don't want to hear the opposite side. Like, they just want somebody to be with them. Like,
But what is it that they're hearing? That's what I'm getting at. What are we arguing about? That I'm hearing my side and only my side. And you're hearing your side, and you guys are hearing only your side, but not the other person's side. What is it that they're fighting over? Why can't they get along? What are they fighting over? If we go all the way back to the American founding, we're talking about founding principles, correct? And they had to fight over the founding principles of government. What should government be based on?
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No.
Those are our rights.
Okay, that's true.
And they fought for those rights to be secured by government. Okay? Are we still fighting for those? We talked about natural law, and I hope you saw that on the video. And we found our government on the principle that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then later on, as government goes by and we recognize that our government is not living up to these principles, we apply the principles and we say, hey, you don't vote. Why not? For two reasons. One, the black man got the right to vote before the woman got the right to vote. Okay, just to let you know that. All right? And when I say got the right, I mean got the right recognized. Because if you have a natural right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and governments are at the consent of the governed, and you are a human, and you have the right, and it's your consent, and you're not allowed to give that consent via your vote, right? Your vote, your natural right, is being suppressed, held down. So when the right was amended, right? The Bill of Rights was amended, and those rights were written down. You didn't get that right to vote. Your right to vote, which you had before, ceased to be oppressed or suppressed. Do you understand that? You did not get the right, and I'm going to keep pounding this home. You do not get your right to life from the Constitution. You do not get your right to liberty from the Constitution. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if the only rights you have are those that the government gives you, there is nowhere in writing by an established government that gives you that right. You have that right naturally. And then you have these tertiary rights, these rights that come from that, such as the right to vote. And they're either suppressed. So as we used these principles, the principle of natural law, and America applied it, this idea that you alter or abolish governments in order to create governments that do what? Secure rights. American history has been that. We have progressed, and I don't want to be a progressive in that regard. That progressive means you're progressing towards a certain political philosophy. But we progress through time towards the more accurate application of those principles with our laws. Are our laws perfect?
No.
The answer is no. Is it true that you have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a right, a natural right? Now, I asked you what you're fighting over. We are fighting over. No, we're not fighting together. But the country's fighting, okay? A lot of you guys don't even care about it right now. And that's cool, because you get to just kind of tune out. And I agree, that's kind of nice. It's a lot less stressful, okay? But for those who are really engaged in this fight, there's a major fight, not over the application of the principles anymore, such as how do we apply the right to life? How do we apply the right to liberty? How do we apply the right to pursue happiness, right? Your freedom of religion, how do we apply that? Your right to free speech, how do we apply that? The fight is not necessarily about that anymore. It is about whether or not you actually have that. Do you actually have a right to free speech? Do you actually have a right to the freedom of worship? Do you actually have, is there really a right to a free press? Or should the government say, this is false, you're not allowed to print that? What do you think? You say no?
I don't think they should.
You don't think they should?
No.
Okay, so this is a debate. Now, we talked about Marx. Karl Marx values the collective over the individual. Liberalism, in the sense that Americans are all liberals, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you're a liberal in the sense that we value the individual, okay, with the individual liberties. All right, and that's one of those principles. And you fight over the collective versus the individual. And now in American history, probably since the 30s, there's been a fight between Marxism, this idea that there's the rich up here and the poor down here, and that the poor need to rise up and take from the rich. Okay, and then we redistribute this wealth. The new word is the power. There's men over the women. The men are the powerful, the women are the powerless. They need to rise up and take from us greedy, patriarchal, evil men, right? That's another way to do Marxism. These identity politics. The white versus the non-white. The white have all this white privilege, and we got to take that privilege from them, right? Have you heard any of this? Have you heard any of this? That's Marxism. That's Marxism. And we got to take their power and redistribute it. That is not the founding principles of America. The founding principles of America is that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And we have certain principles that we have used to form our government. And no, it has not been the rich versus the poor. It has been just simple things like, how do we structure government to take power away from the government? What is Marxism about? Well, it says to give power to the people, but how do you give power to the people? That usually means you're giving power to the government. That's usually how it results. In the communist countries, such as the USSR, all the power over all the resources was given to the government. The power of the press was given to the government. Now, of course, they say, well, that's the people, right? The people are the government, right? And then those in charge of the government do what? Tell you where to worship. And in the case of Europe, they said, no, you can't do that. Okay? In the case of China, they say, no, you can't do that unless you're part of the state church. But if you're part of the state church, you can't be part of the Communist Party. If you're not part of the Communist Party, you have no say in government. Okay? You're a peasant in your own country. Okay? The American form was to say, no, we want to make sure that the citizens have the maximal amount of power and the maximal amount of freedom, and the government is there at our consent. And so one of the principles after we established that we're grounding this on natural law is the concept of federalism. Federalism breaks up. Now, don't get me wrong. Federalism is going to give us, we needed to have a stronger central government than what we had. We talked about the Articles of Confederation last time. And we needed to have that because the government couldn't, collect taxes. You had all these different states entering into treaties, and that was conflicting with the other states, and then you can't do that. So to operate as one unit, United States, they had to build a stronger federal government. There was the Federalists who championed this, and then there were the anti-Federalists who were like really worried that we were going to elect a king. And we didn't want a king because we just came out from under a king. So under the new federalism, what they did was they broke it into different levels of government. We have the federal government that has its domain. And then we have the state government that has its domain. And under states, then you have counties. And under counties, you have cities and municipalities. And in cities, you have stuff like school boards and church boards. All right? And you are a citizen of each of these governments. Some of them are willful. Some of them are just the fact that you live in America and were born, if you're born here, you're a naturalized citizen. You're a citizen by nature. Okay? What happens when these governments clash, and they do? Who wins? When the federal government says no, and the state says yes, who wins? And what do you do? Let me give you an option. Pot, marijuana. That's a big one because in Colorado, California, all these states are like, dude, we just want to smoke some pot. And they come up with these reasons. Oh, man, it's good for this and that and the other. Really, you just want to get high, okay? Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? Yeah, there may be some medicinal value to it, okay? But the bottom line is you want to get high. People wanted to drink, alcohol, right? And they ended prohibition. Fine, okay. That's the honest truth. You want to drink beer, make it legal, right? Okay. So what happens when certain states say, we're going to say it's okay to smoke pot here, like Colorado did. And, federally it's illegal, right? Who wins? Yeah, in this case, it seems like the state won. Why?
Because in that state, they can just go ahead. But all around, like any other state.
Right. I mean, but they say it's okay. Mm-hmm. Well, what if the federal government comes in and says, no, you're going to enforce this federal law, or we're going to cut off funding for your highways?
And in that case, the federal government.
Well, unless the state says, do it, I don't care. They could do that. They could. Go ahead.
Wouldn't that involve the people because it's the people's taxes?
Federal.
Oh.
Federal is my taxes going into the federal government, and the federal government doles it out. So a federal tax, my money that goes to a federal income tax, not a state income tax, federal income tax, that could go to California, right? And unfortunately, most of our stimulus money is going to go to places like California. As a matter of fact, a lot of the money that they're taxing, these big $1 trillion spending packages, multi-trillion dollars, billions of those are going to countries outside of America. Right? So they're taxing you to send your money way overseas to another country for reasons that I still don't know. Okay? I don't know what we'll get out of it. I'm sure it'll help the people that get it. Okay? So federal taxes could go to a great deal of things. So you may not be happy about it, but the point is, it's not just your state taxes. So we're talking, and federal money comes in to do federal things like interstates. Whenever you see the highway like I-10 or whatever, That's an interstate that is the federal government, and I'll get it. I love these things. The iPad. Anyway, but there's a division of powers. Generally, as long as they stick to their jurisdiction, that is, as long as the federal government doesn't overstep, and as long as the state governments don't overstep, there's usually no conflict. They usually work very well together. So states have in them governors, right? And we have state laws that are different than California's laws here in Texas, right? And so we have different ways of collecting taxes, and we have different ways of spending our Texan money, right? For our what we believe to be our interest here in the state of Texas. And each county has its own way of doing things, and so they have to have their collection, right? Now here's the deal. If any one of these things violate the principles upon which this government is established, what do?
Abolish.
We either alter or abolish it, right? So, yes, the federal government can come in and enforce certain laws. I mean, certainly, let's go. Let's just say, let me tell you something. There was slavery practiced in Texas, even after the Civil War. It was hard to abolish. It was literally hard to. Well, slavery exists today. You do know that, correct? And you know, our school is planted kind of in a neighborhood that has one of the largest trades in the world. What am I talking about? Prostitution.
Houston's a real hotspot.
It's horrible, isn't it? And what are they doing?
I don't know.
They bring them in from other countries, and they enslave them here in America. And they enslave, American citizens too, but nonetheless. If you don't do something about it, laws are hard to enforce to begin with, right? You say pot's illegal. Did that get rid of all the pot? No. Okay, so that's right. So the federal government can enforce the law themselves. They could bring in the DEA and they can enforce the law, but that's a very hard thing to do. So sometimes the federal government asks the question when it butts heads with the states. Is it worth the fight? Okay? Is it worth the fight with the state over this issue of pot? Or will we allow the states to make their own decisions? Okay? Because there's a fight between states' rights and the power of the federal government. Who has more power, the state or the feds? We often think the feds, but it's the state that actually affects our lives more, and the city that affects our lives more, and the school board that affects our lives more. The smaller the government, the more it affects us. So federalism is this sense that we break down the governments into the federal government, the state government, with a strong federal government, but not all powerful one. We've talked about natural law. That's another one of our principles. And liberty, the principle of liberty. That somehow the government has to justify taking away your liberty. By creating a law saying you cannot do it, the burden of proof seems to be put at the feet of the government to say, we have to do this, and we have no choice. We are compelled, and we are justified in taking away your liberty for the greater good of society. And if we don't do it, everybody, will feel the pain. Can anybody give me an example of liberty where the government is enforcing the taking away of certain liberties and we have acquiesced to it? Can anybody give us an example in here?
Like a travel ban?
Travel ban would be one. Can you not go anywhere?
Yeah, right now.
You can't go anywhere?
Well, yes, you can, but you can travel to certain places, but there's
That would be an example.
Yeah.
It would certainly be an example. It's taking away your liberty of movement, right? When I got to New Mexico to bury my father, I was supposed to wait 2 weeks before I could even go anywhere. Clearly they didn't enforce it, praise the Lord, because I went to that funeral, okay? And nobody put me in shackles. But that's one of the things that they were saying is you're not allowed to move for 2 weeks upon entering our state, okay? Why? They're justifying it because of the what? Pandemic. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 examples of our liberty right now to which we are acquiescing that I see on our faces right now, okay? The fact that you are supposed to be wearing this thing everywhere you go. And it's going to get different. That guy Fauci wants you to wear 2 at a time. As though I could breathe well with this thing. I'm going to put another one on top of it. And they said even a third, maybe. Is that the government infringing upon your liberty? Your ability to walk around, to breathe freely and show off your smile. For you to breathe free. And what is their justification?
for the health of others and yourself.
Yeah, and so you go to Florida, and what did they say? They said, take your mask off. Stop acting like idiots. Go to work. Okay? State versus federal. Okay? Liberty is one of the principles upon which our government was founded. States are fighting over this. Certain states are like, no. Go to California, they're like, you're locked down. They're just now letting them out. Texas says you could have restaurants open. Right? Go to New York, they say, no, you cannot have restaurants open. So you see the different governments working under this. You see liberty limited in certain places and liberty less limited in other places. I think they're having a hard time going to church in New York and in California, places like that. Here in Texas, can you go to church?
Yeah.
Yeah?
If it's open.
Depends on the church. But that's up to the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
My church, you go, but you have to get there at a certain time. You have to wear a mask. You have to sit away from people. Okay? So a lot less people are going to church. Because of what? The limitations put on them by the government. So the freedom of worship is actually being affected. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing.
Depends on where you stand on religion. If you hate religion, you're like, yeah. You put those guys out of business, right? A lot of people like that. So these are the principles upon which we are governing. This idea of popular sovereignty, that America is a sovereign nation, right? We make decisions based on the will of the people. Popular. That's a principle. Popular sovereignty. We are a sovereign nation, and the government makes its choices based off of the will of the people. Did you catch that? It's on the video. So, does America have sovereignty? What is sovereignty? Self-rule. Should America do what the World Health Organization tells us to do? Should America do what China tells us to do? Should America do what the UN, the United Nations, tells us to do? Should America do what our allies tell us to do? Does America need to ask permission to do stuff? You say no. Yeah, you say no, or?
Yeah, I say no.
Okay, good. And that's based off of the will of the people. Okay? Now, there's a lot of people. Have you heard the term globalism? We live in a global community now. Have you heard of that? Just watch the news long enough. You're going to hear it, okay? Especially if you listen to Joe Biden, okay? He's a globalist. What's a globalist? A globalist is recognizing that says, well, we live in a world. We're all humans. We can all agree on that. We live in different geographical parts of the world, Earth, that is. These are broken up into countries, and they're each, we would call them sovereign. But in a sense, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, and we all are in this, quote, together. Okay? And this idea that we're all interconnected with the economics of the world. So we're connected that way. We're connected through treaties, alliances, through energy, through our problems. There's a belief in the pandemic, right? That, we're all in this together. There's this belief, not just in trade and pandemic, but what about global warming? Oh my God, the planet's going to burn up and we're all going to die in 12 years, right? We're all in this together. We got to do something. So what we do as a globalist, and we're not going to burn up in 12 years, okay? That's actually a quote from a popular politician who said that, we're all going to die in 12 years, all right? I don't buy it, okay? Especially since that was 11 years ago. It wasn't. It was only a couple of years ago. But the idea is that we give up our sovereignty to the whole, right? We are not the best nation on earth. Does anybody believe America's the best nation on earth? You don't? Can you tell me who the best nation is? You're not sure, but then how do you know that we're not? What would it mean to be the best nation on earth?
You'll be perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be the best. You just need to be the best. You just need to be better than the other ones. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's possible we're not the best. I mean, it depends on what grounds are you judging this? How would we judge it? How would one say, okay, do we have the best economy on earth? Do we have the best ability to move forward? Do we have the best sense that protection of rights? Do we have the best, or are we the worst? Are we the middle? Is there somebody better? Is the Republic of the Congo number one on China, number one on the protection of human rights, finances or whatever? Is France better? Go ahead. I mean, just go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm helping you out there.
As far as things that are happening right now in the world, and then compared to other countries, in other countries they seem to have things better in control than America.
Give me an instance of somebody has it in more control.
I think it's Italy that has the pandemic under control.
So it has to do, in that case, the medical.
Yeah.
Those guys, okay, and this isn't early on, those guys had it really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad, okay? Now, Italy's beautiful. Would you agree?
Yes.
I've seen pictures. I've never been there. I hear they got great wine, right? It's the land of the pizza. I like pizza, right? Who doesn't like Italian food? Amore, right? Is it a better place than America is? Do they have a perfect history?
Mm-mm.
Why? What's in their recent history? World War II. I know it seems like a long ways away, but they were fascists, okay? Rabid anti-Semites, okay? On the side of Hitler. Not a good thing, okay? I have some good Italian friends. They're sweet. They're nice. It's not a perfect country. It's an old country, right? I mean, there are a lot of good people there. Are they a perfectly integrated country with other races? You say no?
Yeah, I'll say no.
I don't know. I haven't done the math. I haven't gone over there and done it. But, a lot of these European countries, a lot of the problems America has is because we are a very multi-ethnic country. People talk about how awesome Norway is. Yeah, it's a bunch of white guys out there. That's it. That's all you got. No offense to white guys. Okay, they're blue-eyed, blonde-haired. They're all the same. You got no tension. But you go to France, you go to other places like Germany, you go to England right now, and anywhere you see a lot of racial tension. You see a lot of ethnic tension with the influx of the Islamics, the Muslims that have come in to their countries, and there's fighting, and people are like, I'm not hiring you. You know, we don't see it because we don't live there. We're not watching their local news, and we're not listening to their people complain about it, you know, at the pub. And so it's hard, you know. It's kind of like, do you have the perfect family? You're like, no, my family's not perfect, because you see all the fighting that goes on inside, right? And you look at somebody else's family from the outside, and their family looks all nice and shiny, but you get inside the doors and you find out, oh, you got a few chinks in your armor there, right? Because I remember I thought my friend Shane down the street, I thought his family was great. Man, I love being over there. I thought my family was crazy. And then I find out, why are your parents getting a divorce later on? Well, because I didn't see all the problems on the inside. I just saw the veneer, right? And so in a way we go, is America the greatest country? Well, how do we judge that? How would we judge it? And I want to judge it according to the principles, not according to the deeds, because man is sinful by nature, right? Would you agree? No man is perfect? Okay? Man is sinful by nature. We do things that are sinful. It was a Christian school, so I'm going to go with that, all right? Because of that, we cannot create a perfect government. We cannot exemplify perfection here on earth. We're going to mess it up. We're going to hurt each other, and that's why laws exist. The real question is, are the principles upon which we stand the best principles? Are there better principles than what? Consent of the governed, right? That you guys get a voice. Natural law, that you have rights. Or should you give up all your rights to the government? This goes back to Marxism. Marx believed that the history of man, remember I just said earlier, was the power versus the powerless, the rich versus the poor, the haves versus the have-nots. The poor have to rise up and take from those who have, and then once they do that, they can establish a government that establishes equity, that where all of the outcomes are the same. That you never have more than I do, and I never have more than you do. Is that possible? It would be nice. But in a way, it actually wouldn't be nice. What would you guys think if everybody in here, no matter how hard you worked, everybody got a C in here? Would that be cool? Would you like that?
No.
You all say no? Why?
Some people probably work harder than others to get a good grade.
Yeah, but that's just because they're smarter than others. And what about the person who was born not so smart? They could work hard and still not get an A. Wow, isn't that unfair?
That's their fault.
It's not their fault that they're not smart.
Mm.
It's like saying it's not my fault that I'm not tall. It's my fault that I'm not tall. Okay? Some of us have better cognitive abilities than others, okay? That's a fact. But that is not saying you're born smart. I could become a lot smarter than I am. Okay? Because I could learn. I believe that. But some people are just really good at it, aren't? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, I'm not advocating this. Because what would happen? All the A students would just go, well, I'm not going to work hard anymore. And the people who are like, I wasn't going to work hard anyway, awesome. Right? So they're going to vote for the C, and then the A students are going to be like, well, I'm just going to give up. Okay. Now, that's a I guess I'm criticizing communism that way. Marxism is, led to communism, okay? And that's kind of what was happening. It crushes innovation because those who want to work hard get nothing for it, right? Once you say, you get the same, everybody gets the same, then those who are special no longer do anything special because there's no incentive. Imagine taking the NFL and making it communist and saying, you all get the same pay. You all get the same pay as, guess what? The janitor cleaning the toilets. Okay? How many of them are going to be sacrificing their bodies to win that game? Not many, right? What's it going to do to the game?
It's going to be boring. Like, they're not even going to be trying.
Who's going to want to play it? Who's going to want to watch it? First of all, what I'm trying to say is like, if your effort doesn't get you any more, you're not going to do it. It just takes wits. So Marxism, though, it sounds good because there are poor people. Would you agree? There are powerless people, and I agree. But is the principle of liberty for us to create a situation that should allow people to pull themselves up higher than they are, not necessarily high? Look, I know billionaires. I'm never going to be one. I don't have the ability to. I didn't go into the proper job to do it, okay? Should I complain that they have billions of dollars? No, I'm not even playing the same game they're playing. We're in two different worlds, especially in finances. So, do we maintain the system we have, the principles we have, that allow us to try to go into whatever field we want, to try, if you want to be a billionaire, do you want to be a billionaire? Who doesn't, right? What's your major?
Nursing.
You are not going to be a billionaire. Nursing, okay? You're not even going to be a millionaire. You may with inflation, but that million's not going to be worth a lot. You're just not going to get, but if when you see billionaires, don't get mad at them, okay? The best line in a movie I ever saw was, what was it called? The Pursuit of Happiness. Will Smith. Guy sees, he's broke, right? He's totally broke. He's about to lose his son. He's lost his apartment. He's homeless. He sees a guy pull up in a Ferrari, I think it was. And what does he say to this guy? He says, "You rich jerk." No, he does not say that. He says, "What do you do and how do you do it?" Make sense? Why? Because if he wants that same outcome, he needs to have the same input. He needs to do the same thing that gets the results. Nursing does not get billions of dollars. Finance does. Private equity does. Hedge fund managing does. You want $1 billion, you go into that, okay? You want millions, there's other ways to get millions too, okay? You do that which gets the result.